All right, this is for topic 6, lesson 3. So this one should be relatively quick, just because it uses the same skills we've been doing, except with different types of numbers. So it's not teaching a new skill, it's just how to do it with a specific type of number. So we're looking at when percents are less than 1 or greater than 100. So for example, if you had I know sometimes there might be bonus on a test or something like that, and you get every single question right, plus you get the bonus, you're obviously going to get better than 100%. You're not just going to get 100% on a test if you got the bonus as well. So, for example, if you had, let's say, so kind of going away from the test example, but let's say you had the number 215%. All right, so 215%, and we wanted to change that and show that as two things. So as a fraction, sorry about the handwriting here, it's a little tougher on this, but as a fraction and as a decimal. So again, these are skills we've already done. All that's changing is this number is now over 100. So as a fraction, we know how to do that. So 215%, how are we going to write that as a fraction? All right, so we know that all numbers of a percentage are always over 100, no matter what. I think I even said this once before. No matter what the number is with the percentage, you just place it over 100. All right, so now that looks like a fraction. Now, the only thing we don't want to keep with that is not um, simplified. So even if we're keeping it improper, so improper, the numerator being greater than the denominator, we still have to simplify that a little bit. So let's just start simplifying without changing to a mixed number yet. So if this ends with a 5, this is 100, so I know I can divide them both by 5. All right. So again, as I'm doing this, the key to changing a percentage over 100 to a fraction is just writing it over 100. So that's as simple as it gets. But now we're just simplifying. So when I do simplify, I know I got two equal signs here. Start on the bottom. 100 divided by 5 is nice and easy. It's 20. Now 5 goes into 21 4 times. So do a little bit of mental math here, but still the same process. So that's 20. 1 left over. So 1 and 5 is 15. So 5 goes into 15 3 times. So now I have 43 over 20. All right, and depending on what is expected, this could be a good answer, but if we did want to change it to a mixed number, which we'll do here, 20 goes into 43 one time. Sorry, simple math. 2 times. Thanks, everyone. 2 times. 20 goes into 43 2 times, which would be 40, so 3 would be left over. So 3/20. So 2 and 3/20 is the same as 215%. So our one whole, if I just had the number 1 whole is 100%. All right. So 2 wholes would be 200%. So it's really 200% and 3/20. 3/20 is 15%. So 1 is 100%, 2 is 200%, and then we tack this on, would be the 215%. All right, so that is changing a number that is greater, I should have kept that, greater than 100% into a fraction. All right, so that's that one. Now, if we want to do it into a decimal, it's going to be a very similar process. All right, so 215%, I first want to show it as a fraction without simplifying it. So 215 over 100. Now, how would I read this? I would say 215 hundredths. All right, so how exactly would I write that? Any thoughts? So 215 hundredths, we need to end it in the hundredth spot. So it can be a little confusing if you read it 215 hundredths, because it's actually going to look like this. So tenths is right here, hundredths is right here, so we want to end it in the hundredth spot. So 215 hundredths, it's actually going to be 2 and 15 hundredths. All right. You could do as well, and this might be a little clearer, you can do the numerator divided by the denominator. So 215, and this works in every case. All right, and you'll see our answer is going to be the same. 100 goes into 215. 2 times. My math's a little bit better now. All right, and we bring down the 15. We can't just stay there, so let's get a decimal going on. Let's get a 0 going on. 100 into 150 is 1. You'll kind of see this taking shape. And me running out of room. And then we'll bring down one more 0. 100 into 500, 5 times. 5 times 100 is 500. Can't fit it, but we get no remainder. So 2.15 again. So that's 2 and 15 hundredths. 215, right? So that's how you change a percentage over 100 into a fraction and a decimal. So the exact same way, it's just seen that it is possible. Some people don't think it is possible to have something over 100%. All right, so we'll do a different color for this next section. So the last thing we're going to do is now, what happens when we have, oops, on the eraser, when we have a fraction. Oh, but wait, it's actually a percent. So we want to show 1/5% as a fraction. And you guessed it, as a decimal. It's really tough to write. All right, so some might say if we're changing this to a fraction, well, it's already a fraction. And I can see your point there because we do have a fraction here, but it's actually a percent because our label is a percent. So this means 1/5%. That's a tiny, tiny number. So 1%, if you got a 1% on a test, that would not be that good, right? So 1% of the entire test you got correct. This is saying 1/5 of this 1% is what you got. So it's a tiny, tiny number. So 1/5%, we want to change that into a fraction. Now, it would be nice if we could just get rid of this percentage and say, oh, it's 1/5. But we all know 1/5 is actually, or is the same as 20%, right? If you get 1/5 out of something, that you have 20% of it. So 1/5% has to be way smaller than that. So we're not going to deal with this. So 1/5%. So just like any other number, when we have, say, 22%, and we want to change that into a fraction, we write 22 over 100 and then simplify. So if we did that, 1/5 over 100, that looks kind of funky, right? So what are we actually going to do with, sorry for that phone call. I'll probably just edit that out, obviously. So we have 1/5 over 100. So we don't want to keep it at that. That's a lot of fraction bars going on. But what do we know about the fraction bar? It also means to divide. So now we will do 1/5 divided by 100. So again, that's why we need to hold on to those skills. So 1/5 divided by 100. I'll write 100 as a fraction. So 100 over 1. So 1/5 divided by 100. So what do we do to this number? We find the reciprocal of it and then multiply. So 1/5. I'm going to make that a little clearer because that looks like a 6 to me. 1/5. Again, we're finding the reciprocal, so we're flipping this. So 1/5 times 100 is the same thing as 1/5 divided by 100. So if you think about it, we're taking that 1/5 of 1% and 1/5 and dividing it by 100. So if we had a little pi, let's see if I can quickly do, oh boy. All right, so if we have 1/5, I know this is not perfectly, but if we had 1/5, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1/5, and now we're dividing that by 100. So we're going to get a really, really small number. So 1/5 times 100 is 1 times 1 is 1. 5 times 100 is 500. So 1/500th. So 1/5%. So that's just a fifth of a percent. So if we took up every little 1% and divided it into fives, this is what we'd get. So 1/5% as a fraction is 1/500th. All right. So again, the process is to set the number over 100. Oh, ran out of eraser. All right. So we want to set this number over 100 because anything with a percent, you can just put over 100 and then just divide. All right. So that's all we have to do. So now if we want to do it as a decimal, we do that same process. So again, 1/5, try to make this a little clearer this time, over 100. All right. and then we can turn it into a full-on fraction. So we found that it was 1/500th. Remember, we got that by doing 1/5 divided by 100, which is going to be 1/500th. And then to write that as a decimal, we would then write, do the same thing. We would have to do 1 divided by 500. Oh my goodness, that is way too close to each other. So we do 1 divided by 500. So it's definitely not going to go into 1. It's definitely not going to go into 10. Still not going to go into 100. But it will go into 1,000 2 times. All right, decimal points here. So 2 times 500 is 1,000. And now we're not going to keep these as x's, right? That's not a number. That looks like some weird movie or something. I don't know. So we would have 0.002 as our decimal. So 1/5% is 0.002 as a decimal, or you could read it as tenths, hundredths, thousandths, so 2/1000ths. All right, and that makes sense because I could change 1/500th to 2/1000ths pretty easily. You can see that's simplified. All right, and again, you can see you can move this. You could change this to a percent if you wanted to. So if you move it to percent, you would move it over, and it would be 0.2%. 0.2 is equivalent to 1/5. Right, so 0.2 is equivalent to 1/5. You can also look at 0.2 as 0.20. And 20 out of 100 is 1/5. So 0.2% is the same as 1/5%. All right, so you're moving all back and forth, twisting, winding your way through. You can always move these back and forth to each other. All right, so I hope that was clear. Again, pausing the video, giving yourself a problem that's similar, and just going through the same steps will get you to these answers. If you have more questions, please let me know. Just send me an email and I can help you out. And hopefully these are being used and useful for you guys. All right, so that's the last one I'll do today. So I did 6.1, 6.2, and 6.3 all today. So if this is the only one you saw, there are 2 other ones available. And I'll put out some more on our Google Classroom in maybe a day or 2. All right, thanks. See you guys later.